The most dangerous number in personal finance is not 8%, it is not 10%, it is not the return on the stock market or the rate on a treasury bill. The most dangerous number in your life is 0 cash in the bank, 0 margin for error, 0 distance between a normal Tuesday and a full-blown emergency. When you live at 0, every small problem falls on you with the full force of gravity. A weak battery is not a battery, it is a missed shift. A missed shift is not a missed shift, it is a late fee. A late fee is not a late fee. It is overdraft interest, stress, bad judgment, and another month of your life handed to somebody who already has more money than you do. That is the first thing I want you to understand. Poverty is not just low income. Poverty is a gravity field. It pulls harder the closer you are to the ground. It taxes your decisions, your timing, your energy, your dignity, and your future options. And most people never escape it because they keep treating every problem as if it were separate, when in reality they are all being caused by the same force. I have spent my life studying compounding. Most people hear that word and think about upside. They think about stocks going up and dividends stacking and money earning money while you sleep. That is only half the truth. Compounding works in both directions. If wealth compounds, then weakness compounds too. If ownership compounds, then fragility compounds too. If good decisions can build a fortune, bad structure can quietly bury you before you ever get a chance to make a good decision. That is why two people can work equally hard and get completely different results. One person is operating with altitude, the other person is fighting gravity. The man with altitude buys once. The man under gravity buys again and again. The man with altitude fixes the leak while it is still a leak. The man under gravity waits until the ceiling caves in. The man with altitude pays for reliability. The man under gravity pays for urgency. The first one looks rich because he has discipline. Very often he is disciplined because he has room. The second one looks irresponsible to outsiders. Very often he is drowning in physics. You need to get that through your head because a lot of bad financial advice begins by insulting the victim. People love to moralize about money. They tell you to stop buying coffee, cancel one subscription, cook every meal at home. And suddenly imagine your life will transform. That kind of advice can be useful around the edges. But it misses the central mechanism. The real penalty in a fragile life is not the latte. It is the gravity tax. The gravity tax is what you pay because you cannot buy time, scale, quality, or margin when you need them. It is the extra price charged to people who have the least flexibility. It shows up in your bank account, but it begins much earlier than that. It begins in structure. Let me show you what I mean. If you have money, a problem is usually a line item. If you do not have money, the same problem becomes an event. That difference changes everything. A person with cash hears a strange noise in the car and takes it in this week. A person without cash turns up the radio. The first person pays a few $100s. The second person pays for a tow, a bigger repair, a rental car, lost hours, and maybe a warning from the boss because the commute has become unpredictable. The original bill was not the real bill. The real bill was the price of delay under gravity. A person with liquidity books the dentist when a cavity is still small. A person without liquidity waits until the pain gets unbearable. One gets a filling, the other gets a root canal, an infection, a weekend ruined, and an ugly financing plan offered at the front desk. Again, the disease is not always the tooth. The disease is the absence of buffer. A person with room in the budget buys the large pack, the durable pair, the reliable model, the service contract that actually matters, the tires that hold the road, the jacket that lasts 5 winters, the laptop that works every day. A person under pressure buys the cheapest possible version because the cheapest ticket is the only ticket available. Then he buys it again, then he buys it again, then he wonders why life feels like a treadmill that charges admission. That is the cheap, now penalty. It is one of the cruelest forms of gravity because it disguises itself as savings. You think you are spending less because the number at the register is lower. But total cost is not purchase price. Total cost is purchase price plus replacements, plus interruptions, plus anxiety, plus wasted hours, plus secondary damage. The poor decision is often the one that looked affordable on Friday. I want you to become ruthless about this distinction. Stop asking whether you can survive the payment. Start asking what the lifetime drag will be. The world trains you to focus on the monthly number because the monthly number hides the machine. Car lots do this, landlords do this, credit card companies do this, subscription businesses do this. A person trapped by gravity thinks monthly because gravity is always pressing on the next 7 days. An owner thinks in total systems. He asks one question over and over. What is the full cost of this decision over the life of the asset, the contract, or the habit? That one question can save you years. Take banking. If you have real money, the bank acts like your doorman. If you do not, the bank acts like your landlord. It charges for access, for mistakes, for timing, for small miscalculations, for weakness itself. A forgotten bill hits. Your account slips below zero. Now you are paying an obscene fee for the privilege of being short a tiny amount of money for a tiny amount of time. People call that customer policy. I call it gravity harvesting. It is one more example of a basic rule. Wealth gets paid for its patience. Poverty gets charged for its panic. Think about the moral absurdity of that. The person with reserves gets better rates, lower fees, more flexibility, more forgiveness, and more time. The person with no cushion gets the exact opposite. Higher interest, harsher terms, less room, less respect, less time to recover. And then the culture pretends both people are playing the same game. They are not playing the same game. One person is driving on asphalt. The other is trying to sprint uphill in mud. The same thing happens with credit. Good credit is not just a score. It is altitude. It allows you to borrow at civilized terms. Bad credit is gravity made visible. It means you are paying a premium for the sins of your former shortages. The car is worse, the rate is worse, the repair history is worse, and the consequences of failure are worse. The entire deal is engineered around your lack of options. This is why poor people so often end up paying luxury prices for economy products. They do not get the cheap rate, they get the desperate rate. The economy is full of desperate rates: the payday loan, the buy here, pay here lot, the weekly rental, the installment plan on necessities, the convenience store markup, the overdraft fee, the penalty APR, the cash advance trap, the late rent fee, the missed payment reset. You can call these fees, I call them anti-compounding charges. They are designed to keep your capital from ever achieving altitude. Now let me go one layer deeper, because the money is only part of it. Gravity does not just attack your wallet. It attacks your mind. When a man has no margin, he starts living in tactical mode. Tactical mode is expensive. It narrows the horizon. It makes the urgent feel more real than the important. It lowers your standards because standards require room. It turns the future into something you will deal with later, because today is loud enough already. That is why fragile people often look irrational to people observing from a safe distance. The outsider sees a bad choice. The person under gravity sees relief. The outsider says, "You should have planned better." The person under gravity says, "I was trying to make it to Friday." Scarcity changes cognition. Worry takes mental bandwidth. Constant pressure narrows judgment. If your brain is burning fuel all day on survival math, you do not have much left for strategy, patience, learning, or long-term planning. That is not weakness of character. It is evidence of overload. This matters because the gravity tax has a second bill called the bandwidth bill. The bandwidth bill is the hidden cost of constantly managing shortfalls. It is the fatigue from deciding which payment can wait. It is the stress of checking your account before swiping a card. It is the low-grade panic of knowing one phone call, one copay, one school expense, or one tire could throw off the whole month. It is the emotional wear of postponing maintenance, negotiating due dates, dodging embarrassment, and pretending everything is fine. A rich man does not simply buy better boots. He buys fewer decisions, he buys fewer emergencies, he buys fewer humiliations, he buys quiet. Never underestimate the value of quiet. Quiet is one of the highest returns money can buy. People think wealth is cars and watches and impressive houses. Most of that is theater. Real wealth is the ability to remove friction from ordinary life. It is the ability to say yes before the cost explodes. It is the ability to choose quality before breakdown. It is the ability to think at a monthly scale, a yearly scale, a decade scale, instead of being trapped inside the next 48 hours. That is why I want you to stop defining wealth only by net worth. A man with no consumer debt, a cash buffer, reliable transportation, and a few months of breathing room is wealthier in practical terms than a flashy fool with lease payments, revolving balances, and no room to absorb a shock. One has altitude, the other has costume jewelry. The real war is between fragility and margin. You need margin in your finances the way an airplane needs altitude. Without it, every tiny disturbance becomes dangerous. A gust is no longer a gust. It is a crash risk. The reason I talk so much about emergency funds and liquidity is not because I enjoy boring advice. It is because liquidity changes the laws of physics in your life. The first $1,000 is not impressive to the internet, but the internet is usually run by people selling spectacle. I care about structure. The first $1,000 is the first slab of concrete poured under your feet. It means a flat tire does not become a credit card balance. It means an insurance deductible can be tolerated instead of feared. It means a grocery trip can be planned instead of improvised. It means you can buy the sensible option instead of the self-destructing option. It means you can pause long enough to make one rational decision. That pause is priceless. People love to chase returns while ignoring drag. That is backwards if your life is leaking 20% through interest, penalties, replacements, rush fees, and bad terms. Earning 8% in the stock market is not your first move. Your first move is to stop the bleeding. Great investors understand this instinctively. Before you seek upside, you eliminate structural downside. Before you reach for gain, you remove obvious loss. That principle is as true in a household as it is in an insurance business. If you are carrying a balance at 24% interest, paying it down is not defensive. It is one of the best investments available to you. If your car is destroying your income because of constant repairs, replacing that drag with reliability is not consumption. It is capital allocation. If you buy durable tools that let you work, cook, commute, or care for your family more efficiently, that is not indulgence. That is buying altitude. You need to train yourself to see life this way. Every dollar can do one of two things. It can buy momentary relief, or it can reduce future gravity. The first kind disappears. The second kind compounds. This is where many people lose the plot. They finally get a little money and immediately spend it on emotional recovery. A nice meal, a nicer phone, a weekend escape, better clothes, something symbolic that says, I am not behind anymore. I understand the urge. Deprivation creates hunger, and hunger does not always want what is wise. But if the first dollars of recovery go toward performance instead of protection, gravity will usually reclaim them. Do not use your first margin to look healed. Use it to become harder to knock down. That means your early money should be boring and brutal. Pay down the thing charging you the desperate rate. Fix the machine that threatens your income. Buy the item you keep replacing. Create the buffer that turns emergencies back into inconveniences. Lower recurring costs where cash can buy better terms. Secure the basics that preserve your earning ability. That is how you purchase escape velocity. Escape velocity is one of my favorite ideas because it explains why the beginning feels so unfair. Going from $0 to $10,000 often feels harder than going from $10,000 to $100,000. That is not your imagination. At low altitude, gravity is strongest. Every dollar is contested. Every mistake matters. Every interruption hits harder. Your savings rate is being attacked by the structure of your life before it ever gets a chance to build momentum. But once you gain some height, the equations start to change. You stop paying the worst penalties. You stop using terrible tools. You stop accepting the worst terms. You recover a little time. You think more clearly. You buy fewer emergencies. You stop renting every form of stability. Then something important happens. Money stops being only a shield and starts becoming a lever. That is the transition most people never experience because they confuse motion with progress. They stay busy, but the system remains fragile. They earn more, but the desperate rates rise with them. They get a tax refund and burn it. They refinance the chaos instead of redesigning the structure. So they keep moving without ever gaining altitude. I do not want that for you. I want you to think like a capital allocator. Even if your numbers are small, a great capital allocator does not ask, "What sounds impressive?" He asks, "Where is $1 removing $10 of future pain? Where is one decision reducing the probability of a cascade? Where is one purchase converting recurring failure into recurring stability?" That is the right lens. Maybe the best use of your next $1,000 is not investing. Maybe it is dental work, tires, debt reduction. A used laptop that lets you pick up extra work, the certification that increases your pay, the move that cuts your commute, the tool set that lets you stop paying somebody else every month, or the reserve that lets you stop getting ambushed by timing. Context matters. But the principle does not change. Buy altitude first. I learned long ago that freedom begins before wealth. Freedom begins when you can say no to bad terms, no to the predatory lender, no to the humiliating fee, No to the landlord of your own panic. No to the employer who knows you cannot miss a paycheck and uses that knowledge against you. No to the product that fails. No to the deal built around your desperation. That is why cash is not idle in the early stages. Cash is refusal power. Refusal power is what lets you walk away from the toxic option. It lets you wait. It lets you compare. It lets you negotiate. It lets you repair rather than collapse. It lets you think. It lets you protect your reputation because you can meet obligations on time. It lets you avoid selling your future to solve this week. Most people think wealth is about buying more yeses. In the beginning, it is really about buying the right no's. Now let me tell you the part many people do not want to hear. Some of the leaks in your life are not imposed by the world. Some are tolerated by you because friction has become normal. You got used to the convenience markup. You got used to the late fee. You got used to the subscription you forgot about. You got used to replacing junk. You got used to paying more for less because you stopped believing you could redesign the system. That resignation is another form of gravity. It keeps you close to the ground by training you not to look up. You have to audit your life with fresh eyes. Where are you paying the ground? Floor price, which bills get larger because you are always late, rushed, short, or forced into the bad option. Which products keep failing? Which contracts are built around your weakness? Which routines burn hours that could be reclaimed? Which emergencies are not really emergencies but predictable repairs you have been delaying? Which services are charging you for your own disorganization? Which debts are renting your paycheck before you even see it? Which habits look small but function like recurring gravity? Do not perform this audit to feel ashamed. Perform it to locate the force field. The biggest mistake poor people make is not that they are bad with money. The biggest mistake is that they often attack symptoms randomly instead of destroying the main source of drag. If your car is burning oil, if your overdrafts keep repeating, if your rent is swallowing your oxygen, if your debt is compounding faster than your savings, then that is the leak to attack first. Not because it feels exciting, because it controls the equation. I have seen businesses transformed by fixing one choke point. Households are no different. Find the choke point, attack the choke point relentlessly. That might mean a miserable season of sacrifice. It might mean selling things, taking extra shifts, moving temporarily, driving less, eating simpler, cutting vanity spending to the bone, asking for a better rate, switching banks, consolidating obligations, swallowing pride, and taking the unglamorous action. Fine, do it. Pain with a purpose is very different from pain with no trajectory. You are not cutting for the sake of austerity. You are buying a different set of physical laws for your future self. That future self matters more than your need to feel temporarily normal. The culture around you is dangerous because it wants you emotionally satisfied and structurally weak. It wants you financed. It wants you subscribed. It wants you renting. It wants you replacing. It wants you smoothed into monthly payments so the total damage stays invisible. A structurally strong person is a bad customer for many industries. A structurally weak person is recurring revenue. Never forget that. The system does not merely tolerate your confusion. In many cases, it monetizes it. That is why learning the math matters so much. When you understand gravity, you stop interpreting every setback as a personal failure. You begin to see the penalties clearly. Then you can make cleaner decisions. You stop asking, why am I so bad at money? And start asking, which forces are extracting capital from me faster than I can build it? That question is liberating because it shifts you from guilt to engineering. Engineering is how you win. You do not defeat gravity with motivational slogans. You defeat it with structure, buffer, durability, and time. You defeat it by building a life where the same problem does not get to charge you twice. You defeat it by choosing total cost over fake affordability. You defeat it by prioritizing reliability over appearances. You defeat it by preserving your earning power. You defeat it by accumulating enough liquidity to turn panic back into paperwork. You defeat it by getting just enough altitude that you can finally think like an owner. And once you think like an owner, everything starts to change. You stop admiring people who look rich but live brittle. You stop chasing financial cosmetics. You stop using debt to impersonate stability. You stop buying the disposable version of your own future. You start respecting maintenance. You start respecting reserves. You start respecting the quiet mathematics of durable things. You start noticing that almost every meaningful improvement in life begins with less emergency, less friction, and less dependence on bad terms. That is the foundation of compounding. Compounding is not magic. It is what happens after gravity weakens. So here is my test for you. Look at your life and ask one brutal question. What is the most expensive part of being undercapitalized in my world right now? Not in theory, not 10 years from now. Right now, is it the debt? Is it the transportation? Is it the rent structure? Is it the overdraft cycle? Is it the lack of groceries at scale? Is it the health issue you keep postponing? Is it the missing buffer that turns every inconvenience into a chain reaction? Find that one thing, then direct your next season around breaking it, not impressing people, not chasing easy dopamine, not pretending you are already free. Breaking the force that keeps you close to the ground, because the people who escape are usually not the people with the flashiest plans. They are the people who understand the math soon enough to stop cooperating with it. You do not need to become a market genius to improve your life. You need to stop paying the ground. Floor premium. You need to buy back your time. You need to build refusal power. You need to create enough altitude that one mistake does not own the next 6 months. That is the door. Most people will hear this nod, feel inspired for a day, and then go right back to managing gravity instead of escaping it. They will finance one more fragile choice, ignore one more repair, accept one more predatory term, spend one more cash cushion on a symbol instead of a system, and gravity will take them exactly where it always takes people who refuse to respect it down. You have a different option. You can build quiet, you can build margin, you can build altitude, and once you have enough altitude, the world that used to push down on you will start doing something far more interesting. It will finally let compounding work for you instead of against you. That is the line on one side of it. Every month is recovery. On the other side of it, every month can begin to become construction. Decide which side you want to live on, then make your next dollar prove it.